So when people come up to you, I asked someone else this, and I thought, like, how do you want them to approach you?
I mean, they can approach me however they want. It's not like I'm complaining. What I'm saying is like, my work exists outside. Like, part of the reason I'm making it is to like get it away from me, like to get it off my chest, right? So then it's strange when someone's like talking to you about it, because in some ways I've already like moved on to the next thing.
I mean, do you think people are self-identifying too much with their work?
No, I don't think there's like a right way or a wrong way to do it. I just think I have a somewhat complicated relationship with, like, I think some people, there's introverted writers and extroverted writers, and I think I'm probably more of an introverted writer. So like, part of the reason I wrote it down was so I didn't have to talk about it, right? Like, do you know what I'm saying?
Doesn't that
like,
do the opposite though? Because once you put it out, they
yeah,
want to
of
hear
course.
your thoughts.
That's the paradox of the profession. But it's like, the way I think about it is like, let's say I didn't feel particularly like understood by my parents, right? And I didn't feel like we connected super well growing up. So I feel like if I'm psychoanalyzing myself, one of the reasons I spent so much time learning how to write and writing was it was like me going into my room and being like, oh, I'll explain this, and you like, I'll finally get it, and then you'll like have to hear me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like when someone wants to talk to me about it, it's like it actually takes me back to not being able to explain it as well as I did in the, like, writing is my best medium for communication. So if I'm then having to talk off the cuff with someone about it, it's a little uncomfortable because like I wrote it down because that was the only way I could talk about it.
Totally.
So,
I mean, do you now, like when you have to talk to Samantha, do you write it down?
No.
You're like, hey,
no.
I want you to read this letter about it.
I'm good at communicating. I'm just saying like a complicated emotional topic, like in the way that a musician might be very inarticulate in an interview, but can write like beautiful, emotional, sort of vulnerable music. It's like music is how they communicate.
Yeah.
And then everything else is second best compared to that.
That's interesting. So finding the medium that you explain yourself best in.
Yeah, of course. Right. I mean, one of the paradoxes of writing is there's that Mitch Hedberg joke where he's saying like, you become good at comedy, and then they go like, can you act? Right? And he's saying that's like going up to a cook or a chef and saying, yeah, but can you farm? Right? They're like related but totally different. And so, so it's like the more successful you get at writing, the more opportunities you have to do things that are not writing.
Okay.
And you have to, like, I don't have a podcast because I don't think this is like, it's not the medium I care about, but two, it's not the medium I think I'm super good at. So I don't do it.
That's interesting. So you know that you're a stronger writer, so you stick with just the writing aspect?
Yeah. I talked about this in Obstacle, actually. Like, Thomas Jefferson had a speech impediment. That's why there's no like great speeches from Thomas Jefferson. He wrote the Declaration of Independence, and he wrote all these great things. His first State of the Union, I think, it was just like a letter that he submitted because he had a speech impediment and he couldn't compete with all these other like amazing orators. So yeah, you should know what your limitations are.
Limitations are, I also think we self-limit too early.
Sure.
Like we'll be like, I can only do this much, but it's like, no, you probably could actually done more.
Yeah.
I think, how do you know what to say no to then, right? Because you know writing is your strength, but I know sometimes you do speaking or like what other requests do you get, and how do you decide what you do and don't do?
No, it is a weird thing. You don't want to be saying no to something and being self-limiting, but you also, like, you should do it in the way that you can do it. So like, I think there's this more like sort of performative speakers, like you get up there and they just like wow the crowd, and they're like you're a great TED Talk. I don't feel like that's not me. Right? I get uncomfortable thinking that way. I don't want to be perceived that way. It's not what I want to be. But I do think I'm pretty good at telling stories or translating what I've researched and written into a talk that provides value. So I'm going to do it my way, is I guess the other way to think about it.
What's the last thing you've done that was uncomfortable? I
do uncomfortable stuff all the time. But
like, what's something that comes to mind? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
I mean, this farm is super. This is like I grew up spending all my time in my bedroom, like listening to music and writing, and reading. Work on a farm where I have to like repair things and work around animals and like all that's like the opposite of me. So like this is a whole different side of myself that I'm exploring. So there's definitely that, and I feel like I do a certain amount of uncomfortable things, but I also like. I'll give you an example. Like I don't like being terrified. Like I don't like heights or like.
Do you like scary movies?
No, I don't like horror movies. I don't like roller coasters. I don't like heights. So I just don't do anything that involved like skydiving doesn't to me sound like a challenge. It just sounds like something stupidly uncomfortable. So, you know what I mean? So like I think I am good at knowing myself in the sense it's like I just have no interest in doing that.
What's your thought when people would say like, well, do the things you're afraid of because you can realize how much more you could do, and then you'd have a larger capacity of life, larger like opportunities?
I like doing things that I'm scared of. Like this book that I'm working on right now is like, I'm terrified I won't do well. I'm terrified I'm not capable of doing it. You know, it's like a struggle every day. But I think I'm getting something out of challenging that fear as opposed to just like a roller coaster is terrifying, but objectively safe, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's some exceptions, but you don't die going on a roller coaster, right? So it's like, why would I just go feel bad for the sake of, like, I don't like being scared.
You don't
why
think
would
the
I
outcome is worth the input?
Well, the outcome is nothing. The outcome is an artificial entertainment experience. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't like being scared, so why would I watch a horror movie? I would rather watch a movie that I do enjoy. It's not like after you watch a horror movie and everyone's like, you're so brave.
I'm in a great mood.
Yeah, you're so brave. How did you do this? It's like, it's not real.
How did you do it? You have like a gun while you watch it?
Right. It's not, like, it's not real. Like, you're strapped into the roller coaster. It's been tested hundreds of times. Like, it's totally safe. So I'm just not going to go enjoy, and just like I'm not going to go spend time with someone I don't like.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting your discomfort or your worried about your next book.
Yeah.
Because like I think about someone who's like never had a book. Like I get these emails maybe once a week, and it's like, I've got a book. How should I do marketing? And you're on the other spectrum. I've written, let's say, what, 5 books or 6?
6, I think.
And they've all done relatively well.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're still afraid. Like what is that about?
Well, I'm afraid because it's different. And the good part, maybe I'm not interested in those scary experiences because like writing is scary to me in the sense that like you have this idea of what you want it to be, and it's never that. So it's always scary. Does that make sense?
Go on.
Like, okay, so I had this idea, like today I sat down and I knew what I wanted to write, and what I wrote is not as good as that.
Okay, tell me about that.
Well, it's never, it's like, okay, with drawing, like, do you draw?
Mm-mm.
I don't either, but I imagine you know what an elephant looks like, but if you drew an elephant, it'd be really terrible, right?
Yeah.
Writing is sort of like that. Like, you know what amazing writing looks like.
Yeah.
And you know what your best writing looks like, but usually what you're making is not that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like inherently a humbling profession. Like, you're just getting your ass kicked all the time.
So what did you do about this morning?
I just did it anyway. Like, I mean, that there's a great line about writing. I forget who said it, but they're like, write 2 crappy pages a day, and if you can write lots of crappy pages after a certain amount, you'll have a manuscript, and then you can edit the manuscript, right? Like,
it's a good lesson.
So you have to be okay being uncomfortable and doing not good work. So that I think about that way. And I guess my point is, I would rather challenge myself in my career than challenge myself on a roller coaster, which is totally pointless. And I would rather, like, for instance, I love running. I run almost every single day, but I don't do any races. I don't feel the need to have artificial competition in my life. Like, I'm competing with my job. Do you know what I'm like? I'm trying to write the best. I'm trying to challenge myself with my writing. Running for me is something I enjoy, and to me the challenge is like, Can I do it every day? Not like, did I beat 200 other people who I don't care about?
Well, I think the point for the one thing that you've added is like, I think sometimes we have like these artificial expectations that are unnecessary.
Yes.
Right. You're like, hey, I run because I enjoy running.
Yes.
I'm not trying to be competitive, and for your writing, like you are competitive, but with yourself.
Yeah, and I think financially this is also a problem, right? Like, if you ask most successful people, like, do you have all the things you want? They're like, yeah, I don't like want for anything. And yet they're like doing more and more and trying to earn more and more. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So like, that's something I think about too. It's like, I make more money doing what I do than I would have if when I started, you were like, you can be guaranteed to make this amount of money. Would you, but no more than that for the rest of your career, would you take that? And I would have taken, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm past that point.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Go on.
So, when I get another opportunity that maybe is very financially lucrative, but isn't necessarily something I want to do, I do think about, it's like, wait, what do I need
this more money for?
Yeah, actually, this is a conversation I had with Tim Ferriss when I was starting my marketing company. He was like, you know how Tim can sort of ask you these like probing questions that like almost like a human wouldn't ask. You know what I mean? That like but that are like, so you're like, oh yeah, that's totally right. You know? And he was like, Ryan, it was like, I was telling him about what I was doing, and he was like, Ryan, I have a question for you. He's like, what do you do with your money? And I was like, nothing. Like I don't have expensive taste. Like I was like, it goes in a bank account. And he's like, so why are you doing all this? And I was like, that's a really good question. I don't have an answer. And so I do think about that when there's like stuff I don't want to do. It's like, and I'm not saying I'm good at this because I do lots of things I don't want to do for money, but it is something I think about. It's like, why am I trying to win this competition of having the most stuff if I don't like the stuff?
Yeah. Well, the two things. Remember I told you I was like jealous of your ranch in the beginning?
Yeah.
And so Ryan lives obviously on a ranch, and it's great, and it's like peaceful, and we had like the July 4th party, which is awesome. And I think I told you about it, I was jealous. And I think jealousy is an interesting compass about things either you want or don't want. And I think you or someone said it. It's like, no, do you have money? I'm like, yeah. It's like, do you want to buy? Can you buy this ranch if you wanted? I'm like, yeah. It's like,
this ranch probably costs less than like your condo in Austin. Yeah. You know, like, so that's actually a weird thing. I get this all the time. People, because I have these goats over there, and people are like, oh, I've always wanted a goat. And it's like, it's not like it was some selective process. You know, I didn't win like the lottery to get a goat. I bought it on Craigslist for $100. Like, you know, it wasn't like, I feel very lucky to have what I have, but the things that people tell you they're jealous of are never like these like exclusive
or
things.
Unattainable, totally.
Yeah, totally. And so it's either people don't actually want those things or they're intimidated by getting those things.
Hi y'all, I'm Noah's mom. If you like what you're seeing, please give this video a share and leave a comment. Otherwise, I'll spank you. By the way, check out my playlist with Ryan Holiday for more goodies. Adios!